Hi everyone, welcome back to Asperger's from the Inside. You're here with Paul. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So in today's video, we're looking at the question of, do autistic people have a good memory? So maybe you think you already know the answer to this question. I'm curious to see what your experience is. If you wanted to leave a comment in the chat about if you personally have a good memory. Because for me, there's actually a massive paradox here, because no matter how good my memory is, that doesn't necessarily mean I can remember things. Let me explain. If I have all of the data in my head and it's there somewhere, whether or not I can access it quickly makes a big difference to whether I could so-called remember appointments, remember names, remember birthdays. When we commonly use the phrase to remember something, often what we mean is to do the thing at the right time, to have the right thoughts at the right time to do the thing that I'm supposed to do. So I could know that I have an appointment at 12 o'clock and I need to get in the car and go to the doctor's, but if I don't remember at the right time to actually do that, then I've forgotten about it. So in some sense, having a good memory does not necessarily mean you're good at remembering. So there's like the first memory and then there's remembering, right? So actually, sometimes the remembering part is the part that's actually really challenging, precisely because it involves remembering the right thing at the right time. Attention and memory go absolutely hand in hand, because if I'm focused on one thing, I'm likely to be remembering, having all of the facts with regard to this specific topic in my brain at any one time, which means I can very easily forget to remember the other things that are probably also really important, like remembering to stop for lunch, for example, because I'm focusing my attention, focusing my memory on one particular thing. So in that sense, memory is almost a regulation of attention. Can I keep my attention and my memory on multiple things at the same time so that I remember to go to my appointment? So that when I go to introduce my friend, hi, I'd like you to meet my friend whose name doesn't seem to come out of my mouth right now because I didn't remember it at the right time, even though it's there and I use it every day and I've written it 100 times. I've known you for 20 years. I've forgotten my own name before. I've forgotten my wife's name before. That was embarrassing. In a sense, it's regulating the energy and resources of keeping my attention on the right things so that I can remember the right thing at the right time. So another way to look at this question is around the type of thing that we're trying to remember. So there's lots of different types of data. There's visual data, there's physical sense data, there's can I remember what it felt like, can I remember what it tasted like, can I remember the details, can I remember the meaning. There's so many different ways that we can get information, process information, remember information, recall information, express information. And it is very likely that the way that you like to do all these things is going to be really strong for you. So if you're a visual thinker, it's probably easy for you to do certain things using that skill. For me personally, I can remember things best when I hear them and when I've got a meaning structure that I can put them in, because I remember the pattern, but I often forget the detail, which is why I can remember everything about my best friend except their name, because their name doesn't necessarily correspond in an important way to all of the things, all of the facts, all of the stories that I'm remembering. So in answer to the question, do autistic people have a good memory? It clearly matters to say, well, what type of memory? Are we talking a good visual memory? Some people have a fantastic visual memory. Good auditory memory, good kinesthetic memory, good memory for maps and directions and history and data, and like which part are you actually talking about? So with that in mind, do you have a good memory? We can rephrase that question. What do you have a good memory for? What type of information do you have a good memory for? And what type of information do you struggle to remember accurately? So because I have difficulty remembering meaningless details, things like dates and birthdays, was it the 12th or was it the 21st? How do I remember that? Is there one L or two L's when I'm trying to spell something? I was always terrible at remembering. I've narrowed it down. I know there are only two options and I can't remember if I was supposed to turn left or right. Not very helpful. So with that sense, do autistic people have a good memory? You probably have a very good memory for some things, and it's worth noting the types of things that you might struggle with in that sense. So this might sound like a cliche, but you almost have to say everyone is unique. Do autistic people have a good memory? Well, you'd have to ask them. Do you have a good memory? I'd have to ask you. There's absolutely no way I'm going to know from an autism diagnosis or lack thereof if you have a particular skill in a particular area. And the other moral of this story for me is that I have to focus on what I can do well. I have an extremely good memory, an extremely functional memory for certain types of information that flow really well, and I can access it really quickly and do a lot of great stuff in this little sphere of understanding and processing and modeling systems and figuring out how things work. Maybe that's why I became an engineer, right? And then at the same time, I can notice that remembering dates, remembering times, remembering names, remembering spelling is all really challenging. So I can leverage what I can do well to try and find a functional alternative for the things that I struggle with. For example, why would I remember when my appointments are when I can just put it in my digital calendar and get a reminder from my phone instead? So I'm outsourcing the kind of tasks that I find really challenging because I don't remember at the right time. And at the same time, I'm leveraging my strengths of being really organized and remembering to do things in a very structured, organized, logical order to make sure I don't miss any of the tasks. And I will always put it in my digital calendar. Great, I'm good at doing that. And then the calendar reminds me, and I don't need to rely on my lousy memory of, oh, was it 11 o'clock or was it 11:30? So in answer to the question, do autistic people have a good memory? Probably in some areas and probably not in other areas. We're all unique, and it is often useful and helpful to focus on what we can do, to focus on what our strengths are, and then that way we can do better leveraging that so that we can make up for the areas that we might find more challenging and don't have to waste as much energy trying to remember something that is just not going in or not coming out at the right time. Anyway, so I might leave it there, but I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you again next week. Bye.